everyone. Welcome to yet another episode in the coaching community. I'm Rina Lang, one of the co-founders, and this is our last episode before we take a break, summer break, and we're not going to be away for too long, hopefully. But today I have a very interesting guest with us. So Christy Racho and I, we met quite a while back. Yeah, first time we spoke sometime in March maybe. And she is an expert in automations and workflows and such, and offering clients really, really smooth, interesting experiences, which I think for us coaches, and I'm guilty of that too, we get so busy in all the admin stuff that we actually forget concentrating or paying attention to the things that really work for us and clients and in growing our business. And hopefully she'll set our minds straight today and give us some ideas. And yeah, welcome. So tell us a bit more about yourself, on what is it that you do and how did you get started in this area?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me today. I appreciate that. So I have been in the admin world for probably about 15, almost 20 years. I'm dating myself a little bit here, but I have been providing administrative skills at all different levels, right from one-to-one person all the way up to executives in hospital situations and things like that. In the last 4 years, I decided to create my own business where I was helping other business owners create those amazing experiences. And one of my favorite references or favorite things to help people understand how powerful and amazing client experiences are is if you've ever been to Disney. I don't know about you, but the last time we were in Disney, it was the way that they go above and beyond is something that I don't think is paralleled by many other companies in the world. We forgot our luggage, or we didn't forget our luggage, but we had a bit of a hiccup in our luggage. And the way that they smoothed out all the bumps, the process, knowing what steps come next, all the different actions and things that need to happen in those processes, were really able to put my mind at ease. They were able to stay one step ahead of me. And so that's one of the things I absolutely love creating with different clients of mine. I typically work with clients who are coaches, speakers, and then service providers. And one of my favorite things to do with them is to actually sit and do a little bit of strategizing with them to figure out what that process could look like start to finish. So everything from how do they get, how do they find you in the world of the internet, which is huge and wonderful. And then how do they go right through to, in your business, right through to a testimonial, and what are the different milestones and markers and different things that need to happen to get you to that point. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. It's my happy place.
Thank you for sharing, Christy. Okay, I'm trying to manage Facebook and this.
That's okay, no worries. Did you want me to just jump into maybe how I do that?
Yes.
Yeah,
just go ahead while I'm just setting things up. And
okay, perfect. So one of the things that I like to do a lot with my clients is I like to walk through the process that they normally use to onboard their clients, whether you've been in business for a couple of weeks or if you've been in business for a couple of years. One of the things that's really challenging for new business owners is to try to find what is the repeatable process, or what's the dream process that they take clients through. And when you're building a client experience, it's not always just necessarily what works the best for the client. It's also trying to facilitate and get the information that you as well need as the coach or that service provider in order to do your job really well. That could be something like, ease of use when it comes to booking that first session with you. Is it easy for them to be able to get onto your calendar? Do you even have a calendar? Are you trying to do the back and forth, trying to figure out different time zones? And, reminder calls or reminder appointment reminders and things like that. Are those things that you have built into your client experience? All of those steps take that process and really turn up kind of the professionalism, which automatically helps to build that know, like, and trust factor when it comes to working with your clients. Do you have enough information to jump on that initial call with them? Do you need to collect some basic information from them? What made you reach out? Where are you at right now? What is that thing that keeps you up late at night that makes it so that your job isn't, or that you're struggling? Maybe it's with weight loss. Maybe it's with your business operations. Maybe it's with your finances. There's all these different amazing different experiences that we could build out there, but it's really getting down to kind of the basics and figuring out, what do you need? Do you want to start with a discovery call? Do you want to just jump right into offering your product? Do you like to have a conversation with somebody and offer them the package or the options later on? Do you want them to get a welcome email? Do you, what are all the different steps and stages that go along in your your intake process? And I like to break it up into a couple different sections. So for me, everybody's got a little bit of a different idea and a view of what the onboarding process looks like, or even where the onboarding process starts. For me, I have like a client, like a discovery call process. That's where I typically start. And so that would be where somebody would maybe find me on social media, could be LinkedIn, could be a podcast, could be a post that I create, a YouTube video, whatever that looks like. But that's kind of step one, phase one, so to speak. They get interested and then wanted to work with you. How do they get there? How do they get those pieces connected? So typically what I like to do in my business is I'll have them jump on to my website and they'll book a discovery call with me. Right then and there, with the software and the tools that I have set up, I've got it built out so that they get the reminder calls automatically. They're asked to fill out a form so that I have some context for when I jump into that initial call with them. And I actually use that as my sales and strategy call. So I like to offer a little bit of value in that call, but then I offer the different ways and solutions that I can help them to build out their client experience, or to help them with some of the workflows in the back end of their business, just to try to free up some of that time and energy that you're often being bogged down by. And in most cases, people just want to work with their clients. They don't want to have to worry about, whether they've been invoiced and all that kind of tricky back end stuff. So like I said, I, would create it so that there is an opportunity and a way for them to be able to get into my online calendar. All of that is done without me having to do a lot of work. In fact, in most cases, I jump onto a call 5 or 10 minutes early. I take a look at, their intake form, get familiarized with what I need to do. And then everything has happened automatically. I've worked really hard to make sure I've got a really clean and smooth onboarding process or intake process. And then once I get off the call with them, at that point, they've probably been pitched or offered something. I know that's not always the case, and that might not be the best fit for you, and that's okay. It's just trying to check all the boxes. What do you need? What do they need? And then it's answering questions. My favorite thing to do is to make sure that you're answering as many of the questions as you can, kind of before they've asked them, because nothing is worse than, spending $10,000 or $5,000 to work with somebody and then being scared you made the wrong decision. So it's jumping in and making sure that, that you're able to hold their hand in a way that isn't actually a repeatable process and even somewhat of an automated process, but that through experiences and through questions that have come up before, you've been able to build certain things into all of those different steps and mechanisms that go after you offer your service to them. So it could be in a proposal, there could be some contracts and an invoice. It's making sure that, that welcome email gets them, that says, I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited you took this next step. I know it's a big deal. But making sure that you're addressing those fears and concerns in a way that is reassuring and comforting, and that gives them peace of mind. It is helpful and exciting for them that they've got things to do right away. Because again, if you're anything like me, I do have a little bit of ADHD. And one of the things that's terrible is when you purchase something and you're so excited, you've just spent, a lot of money to do something, and then there's nothing to do. You're excited, you want to jump in. Let me fill out a form or something. Let me get some information to you. Let me do something that helps me feel like I'm moving the needle forward in the next step of the process. And so that could be an intake form. It could be scheduling another session that we get started, everything's ready to go. Again, it depends on your business. It depends on your process as the coach and or service provider, or whatever type of service that you're providing your clients. It could be, if you're a weight loss coach, it could be getting them to fill out a little bit of a history form. If you are a wedding planner, it could be, here are some of the different venues you're interested in. Here's a guide of the different venues that I like to work with so that you can do a little bit of research. If you're a photographer, here's how to look great in a headshot so that you lose your double chin, all these, amazing different things that kind of helps to kind of get you excited and motivated and go, okay, I made the right decision. This is the perfect person for me. And then what are the next check boxes or the next milestones that we need to go through? And so that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. I love the onboarding process. And so that's taking that client from being interested all the way into you're actively working with them. Setting up, if it's a coaching client, it's setting up the different, maybe you meet twice a month. Well, let's get those set up and ready to go so that the accountability is really high and we don't have to worry for the client to book their next appointment, because sometimes that happens. especially when you get into the thick of things with your coaching business, and all of a sudden it starts to get a little tricky, a little tougher, the work gets to be a little deeper, you want to have that continuity and that consistency set up. What does it look like? Do you need, at the halfway point is, do you need to touch base with them to say, hey, how do you feel like this is going? Do we need to change direction? Do you feel like we're in the right zone? Is this working really well? Is it not working really well? And how can we make some changes so that this feels like the best fit ever for you? And then towards the end of the process, we're getting to the end of our 6-month coaching together. How do you feel about this? Would you like to continue on for another 6 months? Do you feel like this is a good place for us to take a pause? And if so, what worked really well? What was a great, what was a great outcome that happened through our coaching together? Or, your testimonial, the photographer was amazing. They did this and this and this. Here's the feedback that we want. So then you can put it on your website for the next new person to come in. I apologize. I jumped around a lot in there, but it's all figuring out those different check boxes and milestones that need to happen in your dream client experience. How do you make your client feel like they're supported, like you are answering the questions before they can even ask? Nothing is worse than spending a lot of money on something and feeling uncertain about it and being worried that, balls have been dropped, or that you have been forgotten, or that you have to check in with the person you paid. That's not how this should go. It should be really smooth, and it makes that experience feel like, it's a designer, it's somebody who's created it specifically for you, and that every email is coming directly from you to the client, that you've written it specifically for them. That is a really great client experience. And that is something that gets me into bed in the morning. I love doing that with my clients and helping them to set those up, to think of the things that they've forgotten. Especially not everybody has ADHD. I appreciate that, but sometimes it's really hard to see outside of your business and to kind of get the big picture when you've always done something a certain way. Is that the best way for your clients? Is it not the best way for your clients, but the best way for you? And sometimes you have to make those decisions. And to have somebody, my goal is to make it so that it's the best option for both of you, obviously. But it's to give you that outside perspective, I think, and experience to, this is what I've done in the past. Again, it's your business. It's doing it the way that works for you and for your clients. But to be able to look at it from a client experience too, I think is really hard to do when you're a business owner. And I think having somebody who can give you that external perspective is so helpful. And then to take this step to the next level, I am a Dubsado Setup Specialist. Not everybody has to use Dubsado, but Dubsado is a really powerful and fantastic tool that you can use to actually build all of these steps and stages in and automate it. There's lots of different competitors out there. There's lots of different programs that you can use. But one thing that also happens a lot when I talk to new companies or new businesses that want some help with their workflows is they've got one program to do their calendar management. They've got another program that they use for their contracts. They've got an invoicing program that's yet another program. They have got, Google Gmail or whatever, that is what they're managing their emails, and they're writing everything by hand. And that's okay at the beginning, but as you're trying to build your business and as you're trying to expand your capacity, you can't do that as much anymore because you just don't have the manpower. And also it gets very overwhelming trying to manage all the different things in your head that need to be done in order to get that process going. And more than anything, it also bottlenecks your business because you have to be the person that sends the email. You have to be the person that sends the contract and that rewrites the contract. Whereas if you've got some really powerful all-in-one tools, they're never going to be the perfect fit for everything, and they're never going to be the perfect fit for every business. But one of the things I love to do is I love to consult with business owners to try to see if there's some tools out there that we can help to stop recreating the wheel, stop doing things manually. Like I mentioned earlier, in my onboarding process, or sorry, just prior to my onboarding process, where people get to meet me and do the discovery call with me, I don't actually touch anything. And there's about 10 action steps that happen. I don't touch any of that until I actually jump onto the Zoom call with a client. They feel supported. They know what's coming. They know when their call is because they've received correspondence from me that is reassuring and comforting for them, that they are like, okay, this is great. I know exactly when it is. There's links and everything, so I don't have to go outside of anything to click anywhere. And that is something that I think is so exciting for those clients to be able to do. and to have is that reassurance. Okay, my appointment is tomorrow at 1 o'clock. The link is there. These are the things that I need to have done before we meet tomorrow. And again, that list is very small, but again, it's just the reassurance of what's coming next. And then they get another call, or they get another email 1 hour before we have our call together. And it's like, hi, we meet in 1 hour, just as a reminder, because we all get busy and things. And you're like, I've got a call in 2 hours, and you're in the middle of something and you go, oh, shoot, I forgot. So that, it's just reminder calls, and it's setting up all of those different little nudges and little reminders to your clients, just to make sure that they show up for things. I very rarely get no-shows to my calls because I've sent the reminders, they're prepared, they're ready to go, and people show up to my calls ready to go and ready to start. I don't get a lot of excuses. Oh, I didn't get that done. I don't have this ready, because I've made sure that along the way that it's easy and it's accessible and it's fun for them. And so I think trying to build your business, and especially that client journey, that client experience, in a way that you're not trying to reactively fix things all the time, or you're not going, oh, shoot, I haven't sent them an invoice in 2 months. The system is built in and it automatically does that for you. It's sending the emails when it's meant to, when they need to. And there's just some really amazing tools and ways that you can build out automated processes for your clients that are going to save you so much time, so much energy, which means you can work with more clients, or better yet, you can maybe sit on the couch and cuddle with your partner, or spend a little bit of time with your nieces and nephews, or your kids at home, or that you just don't have to be attached to your business 24/7. So that was a very large nutshell of what I do. I do client experiences as my main focus, but sometimes I also help with some of those workflows in the back end of your business that maybe aren't necessarily client facing, but that help you to make sure that you're following and checking all the things off in your business, in the back end of your business as well. So that was a very long-winded version of what I do, Rena. Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, I'm a big fan of automations, and I'm a big believer in it. And as you're building your business, of course, every business is different. There's some core things. Of course, you gotta have a scheduling, and you gotta automate all those reminders and everything, because otherwise it's just not doable. But I'm a big believer in it, and especially if you want to save some money and you don't have the funds yet to hire somebody to do those things that maybe cannot be automated. Building all that in is really helpful. Like my whole marketing consists these days only of podcasts and sharing my little ebook to as many people as I can, because as soon as they actually download that ebook, they give their email address, they immediately are enrolled in all kinds of different things. They get enrolled into my emails. Then I know, every couple of days there is an email going out to those people, reminding them that I still exist. I don't have to do anything about that. This is actually where I am. I'm building more and more my email content now. Mm-hmm. So those of you who've been receiving emails from me, and I'm focusing on that, just automating as much as I can. But of course, I need to create that content. But once it's done, it's working for me. And the beauty of it is I always enjoy the moment when somebody schedules a call, because once they get the ebook, the next page they're led to is actually booking a call with me. Mm-hmm. And that I don't have to do anything, just share my email and people just book with me. That's always exciting. When this happens, I don't need to chase anybody anymore. Just if they are interested in my ebook, they read it, they like it, then they schedule a call. Perfect, boom. The pre-sale already happened, right?
It becomes a natural progression, right? And I think that that's the thing. Even if you take it a step farther back like that, like you said, you've got your newsletter set up and ready to go. You've got some type of a lead magnet that brings people in. Automating that process. I read something the other day and I thought it was a really smart way of explaining it. Tech is really your first employee. It's the first way of getting what's inside of your head out into a system, into a way of using it so that it is freeing up time and space and capacity. And I think a lot of the one of the things that a lot of people get tied up on is which tools to use, what time, like how do I know which scheduler to get? How do I know what what different tech stacks or tech groupings to use together in order to make my business effective. And that's something else that I love to help clients with as a way of automating and figuring out what those next steps are. It's kind of a twofold process. So the first one is to actually build out and write down what that process looks like. I love the idea of using Post-it notes. It's something that I think is a really fantastic tool to use. Is just to grab a bunch of Post-it notes. If you can, grab ones that are different colors and have the different colors meant for different actions. So one of them might be if an email needs to go, it's a pink Post-it. And if a calendar scheduler needs to go, it's a green Post-it. And to actually build it out on a wall so you can see what your process looks like from start to finish, and then try to figure out the tech that you need in order to automate that and to build that in so that it's automatic. And so that you don't need to, send the reminder emails, like you said. You don't need to do all of those things manually, because it does really slow down your business if you have to do that all on its own. But I love the idea that you've got your, you send your ebook out, that's automated. They're automatically on an email list. Then the next step, like I know a lot of the times people will have a couple different emails that will go out after that. And it's just introducing them to you, building that know, like, and trust factor so that they're able to come into your universe and they feel like they know you. They feel like you're a friend. That's the whole point. And that's what makes sales. And that's what makes you somebody they're going to. It keeps you top of mind and keeps you as somebody in the back of their head that is a specialist that they want to come see for what you do. Yeah.
Sure. And of course, depending on where you are in your business, when I just started out, I was just on a Calendly free plan, which had no reminders, but I had standardized my emails so that I manually send reminders because I had lots of time. There was no business for me yet. I had the time to actually send manual reminders, and I wasn't making money yet.
Yeah.
And so I sent manually reminders to make sure that people show up for my sessions. Mm-hmm. And I was on a free Calendly plan, and I was on a free HubSpot plan, which integrates very well with Gmail. Gmail is also free. In the beginning, of course, you're going to rely on free tools. I would even discourage you from signing up for any platform where you have to pay just because you don't have a business yet. You don't even know yet what exactly you're going to need. You got to learn, play around with Calendly, the free version, see what works, what doesn't work, how to structure reminders, what you write there. And the same later on, you can replicate in some other system. They're not that different, but try free versions. Like now, those of you who've been with us for a while, you know that we partner up with Coachbox. And if you sign up with us for Coachbox, you get the first month for free. It's an excellent tool. After a year of running my business on all kinds of different platforms, I was using Later and HubSpot and Calendly and stuff. For me, it was time to upgrade. So I signed up for Coachbox. Now I do my social posts through Coachbox. I have my funnels there. I manage my Facebook groups there. They have that function of managing the Facebook groups and automating letting people into the community. So I don't have to worry about that either. It's already automated because managing Facebook group, it took so much time, For sure. People are submitting their details, pulling out those details manually. I don't know how many live hours I wasted on that. But now I'm so glad Coachbox does that and pulls out all the emails. It creates the contact right away. I don't have to do anything. The same, I created my lead magnet there and I have my Calendly there. Of course, it takes some time to get the hang of it and set it all up. But that's why if you practice on the free tools, you understand the structure, you understand how it works. You already trained yourself to think that way and how to integrate it all. But I'm a big fan having it all in one system. And especially if you're looking for a system, I've heard about Dubsado. I'm not very familiar with it. But what you hear a lot is Kajabi and all those other platforms. The thing is this, even HubSpot, these platforms are designed not necessarily for coaches. They're for anybody and everybody who does an online business. And that's what I like about Coachbox so much, because it's specifically designed for coaches and it's quite affordable. I mean, it's still $99 a month. And if you have online courses and you want to offer online courses to your community, then it's, I think, $199. But basically, you can try all those other platforms, but maybe just go for the free version and then maybe choose a platform that is maybe more aligned with how a coaching business looks like. Because our business is slightly different from our online shop, let's say. It's different.
For sure.
And there's
Well, and I think,
that we meet.
yeah, I think that brings up a really great point, because I think sometimes what happens, there's two types of people out there. I think there's the new business owners, the new coaches, the new service providers that just jump in and buy all the things because everybody that they've done all the research says you need to have the highest version of this, you have to have the best version of this. And what ends up happening is you end up building a business from a scarcity point because you have all these expenses you've got to cover and you don't have any clients yet. And so I think that brings up a really great point. Use the free software, start to write out what a process would look like as you build it, because what's going to happen, and be prepared with the understanding that it's kind of a live thing. It's always going to evolve. It's always going to change. It's always going to improve. And once you come from that point of view, it makes it easier. When you've got a workflow or an automation or whatever that looks like, even at the beginning, like you said, Rita, using free tools and systems and doing the manual mechanisms at the beginning is actually really valuable, because then you understand how your clients are using those things. So when somebody comes in and uses a scheduler, what happens, when they need that reminder call? Maybe you're finding out when you set up reminder calls, even if it's manually at the beginning, you know what, my clients don't really care for one that's the day of. They just want one maybe 24 hours before as a reminder. Or maybe your clients would prefer to have one 2 days out and then the day before. And the way you get that feedback is by asking your clients. Don't be afraid to reach out to them and say, how did this go for you? How did this feel? Is there anything I can do to make this feel a little bit better for you, to make the process easier? I think we're afraid to ask our clients because we don't want to look maybe unprofessional in front of them. But at the end of the day, we're building this for them. So let's make it work for them. And so I think using those free tools, using, a free email marketing platform to send out your newsletters, using that Calendly, that free Calendly link. There's Zapier out there. Zapier is a program that works as a bridge to make two software programs talk that normally wouldn't. And I know that's a little complicated, but if you want your email marketing to match with your Calendly, there's things that you can use to make those software pieces connect and talk to each other. And I appreciate this is sometimes very overwhelming. And so that's why I love talking to clients about this stuff, because one of my ADHD things is that I got really into a bunch of different types of software, and I wanted to know how they all worked. I wanted to know how they connected. What's the best version for this and what's the best version for this? And trying to figure out, it's kind of a little bit like a puzzle, trying to make sure that you're able to connect it all together and build an experience that matches what your clients need. But that's easy to use. I mean, there's some really complicated tools out there that are fantastic that help you, but at the end of the day, if they don't help your clients out, or if it's too hard and complicated for your clients, you're not doing anybody any favors. Especially if you tend to work with an older audience. I appreciate that's a little bit of a stereotype and it's not meant to be, but you have to be prepared that there's certain clients out there that just aren't technologically savvy and that's difficult for them. So you want systems that's really simple, really easy to use, but really powerful. So I think that making sure that you're finding really great solutions, writing out your process, being comfortable and prepared that it's going to evolve and it's going to change. And like Rena mentioned earlier too, making sure that you're finding software that's meant for the industry that you're in sometimes is really important. I think it's very easy, to find, like, there's some really big people out there, really big, not coaches, but I guess people that teach you how to create email marketing lists and how to use Pinterest. And they're like, you have to use Kajabi, or you have to use ConvertKit, or you have to use, and these are just a bunch of different tech programs out there. And I think one of the things that we get caught up in is, well, if I want to get to, the capacity that somebody I look up to is in, I have to use their programs, but your business isn't ready for that program yet. And there's nothing to say that you can't grow and evolve and change your tech as you grow and evolve your business. In fact, I think it's a good thing. I think it's really important for you to know how your tech all works together and to not bite off more than you can chew. Nothing in the world is worse than having to get people in the door in order to pay just to run your business. Like that, it shouldn't be that way. You should get the clients and then you should build the stuff as the clients come. A little bit more like field of dreams, I guess, if you will. But trying to figure out what works for you, what you need is also, reach out. That's something I love helping people with as part of that process of part of building that client experience out, or even just the mechanisms and the tools that you need to manage your business is part of building workflows and automations. And sometimes that honestly they're like, well, I know what I want this to look like. I know how I want the process to go, but I don't know how to build it. And I don't know how to do it in a way that doesn't involve me clicking all the buttons. And that's definitely part of the process, the strategy that I help with too. It's a lot of fun actually, is trying to fit the puzzle piece together and to make it so that it's working really well for you as well. So.
One of the observations that I have that prevent people from automating more or working more with technology to support the business is many people are afraid of technology or struggle understanding it, and struggling understanding Facebook, let alone systems. When you work with people like that, how do you work? How do you guide them? What advice do you have for those people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think a lot of the times I typically start with a strategy session, and I do that on purpose because I want to see where they're at. I want to see how far into their business they are, how many clients they've run through a process, because sometimes if you've only run 1 or 2 clients through the process, versus somebody who has run, who's been in their coaching business for 3 years and have put maybe 15 clients through. I don't know if that's, that number makes sense, but if that's the case, then what they need in their experience in their workflow is quite different. And so I think one of the things that's really important, there's nothing wrong with having a process and automations that are very simple, but I do think it's a mistake to try to build automations before you actually understand your process. I think that's something that a lot of people do, and it's a little bit premature. And I also think it's really important for you to help build your process, because sometimes what ends up happening is people will pay somebody else to build their automations out, which I don't always think is the best solution. I think that sometimes it should be very collaborative, and you should understand your process inside out, because what happens is if you run into an issue, you need to know how to troubleshoot it. And so I think if you've got somebody who's very, very new to software, then I think it's finding the different solutions out there. Like, I know, just as an example, there's 2 really, really popular common calendar booking systems. One of them is one that Rena mentioned, it's Calendly, and the other one is Acuity. I like both of them for different reasons. For me, Calendly is a very simple, a very clean, a very easy to use calendar booking system. And it would be one that I would suggest to somebody who is fairly new. There's nothing to say you can't do these things manually. It just changes the experience. And one of the things too that I love to do too is that if you are new to a lot of these pieces of software, I love to create videos and show people how to get in there, how to use it, how to create things, how to edit things in a way that feels comfortable for them, and that they can keep it, they can have it set up and ready to go. But it's very much adapting the software based on their experience computer wise. When I use that example of Calendly versus Acuity, there's nothing wrong with Acuity. In fact, I actually think Acuity, for me, I like the look of it a little bit better. It looks a little bit more, there's a little bit more that you can customize to make it look a little bit more like your branding and whatnot. But again, Calendly, they both do the exact same thing. They're the exact same software. It just looks a little bit different, and one's a little bit more easy to use. So it's just knowing that about the different softwares that people are trying to use together. Maybe it is that they jump into something like a Coachbox. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but it means everything's under one roof. And as you learn to use that software, once you've kind of learned how to do the calendar in there, then you know how to do all the different things. It's just a matter of figuring out the menus. It all just comes down to figuring out what you want to do in your actual workflow. Again, this could be something that's not even client related. It could be something in the back end of your business. How do you kind of connect those dots in a way that feels good for you? Because if you've got a tech stack, like if you've got all these different tech services or tech programs and you don't know how to use it, it's useless. It doesn't mean anything to you, and it's not going to help you in any way. So it's making sure that you're comfortable with the programs that you're using in your business, that you feel comfortable in the actual process itself, because I think that matters as well, is making sure that you actually understand what the next step in the process is, so that you always know where your clients are, because sometimes people will fall off the rail and they'll need you to put them back into where they need to go. And so it's making sure you understand the different software that you're using and the different process that you're using. So, oh, sorry, I'm just taking a look at the comments here. Yeah, I totally agree, Doreen. it definitely makes it professional. And when you want to get online with your products and services, having the processes and having automation and having really great technology really helps to expedite the process. It makes it simple, and it also makes you look a lot more professional too when you've got a really polished process for your clients to walk through. And it's it makes it look like you've got a team, and sometimes you can fake that a little bit, that it's just you and Becky in accounting or whatever that looks like. So yeah.
Yeah, having said all of that, I mean, those who are listening to this and are new to coaching, I would probably just worry about getting some sort of a basic CRM set up and some sort of a scheduling tool, because the backbone of your business are clients. It doesn't make sense building a house if you have nobody to put into that house and make them live there. You might design a house that it's totally not to their liking. So I wouldn't worry so much about processes from the beginning, just set that up. But the focus is really dance with clients, like go meet as many people as you can, talk and talk and talk and talk. This is something that I'm very adamant, even with my clients, those people who are help with their businesses, is that if you have lots and lots of free time on your hands because you don't have clients yet, then try, the best investment would be of that time is not to aimlessly scrolling Facebook and such, but actually talking to real people, inviting them in free sessions left and right as much as you can, so that you can hone your coaching skills and build those relationships. And people might not work with you now, but they will watch you, they know who you are. And in a couple of months, maybe they'll join, they'll start working with you. But the good news is you will get all those email addresses every time somebody schedules with you. If your system is integrated, like Calendly, paid version and the free version of HubSpot, they already integrate, which means every single time somebody schedules with you, I don't know if it's the same with Acuity, but basically every single time somebody schedules with you a phone call, already that person is created as a client in your system. And as I keep saying, you know, I had almost 300 contacts when I was ready to send my very, very first email, and I had an audience to send it to. And that's what many people don't realize. I always recommend also to people read the book, The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. It's one of those books that really changed my way of thinking of how you build your tribe. You build your tribe, you try to meet as many people as possible one-on-one, so that they actually like you, get to know you, recommend you. People are more likely to recommend you or work with you if they have met you before and know you are a real human being. And that's probably what I would do, and I did for the first 1 year of my coaching. Only after 1 year, I signed up for Coachbox, and maybe Doreen can say more about that. Doreen is partnering up with Coachbox as well, and that's when I was ready to actually start investing. When there was an audience, there were people, there were lots and lots of email addresses already available, and it was time for me to scale up. But my growth was always informed by what clients say and what they need. And it's basically building one piece, building another piece, building another piece, building another piece. And then eventually it's a slow process, and you have the rest of your life to build on it.
That's the best part, is that it can always be added to, it can always be improved, it can always be changed. One of the things I think too, I really like the idea that you mentioned, that you have to put yourself out there, and there's some really great conversations that happen in those beginning stages too. Like you mentioned, Raina, when you're meeting those new people, sometimes you're getting market research, you're getting information about what it is they're looking for, whether you're talking to the right people or not the right people, if you're bringing in the right audience. And again, like you said too, whether you are sharing, whether it's that person is maybe the right fit for you or not, maybe they have somebody else who could be a better fit for you if they're not the right fit. And it's just marketing. And so a lot of the times too, and I think a CRM is really good. I don't know if everybody's familiar with what a CRM, but it's a client relationship management tool. And it's basically a way to track all of those conversations and then potentially to take them to the next step. So it's just a way of collecting all of those people, all of that information from all those people that you talk to. Sometimes you can tag them just so that you had something that was like, maybe they're interested, but not for another 6 months. And it just kind of helps you to manage all those different people and kind of where everybody is at with regards to whether they're interested in becoming a client of yours or not. The program that I mentioned, Dubsado, all those CRMs work very similar. And basically the whole point of it is just to manage where those people are in, they'll call it a funnel or something like that, but basically where they are from being a cold lead, which is somebody who's brand new to you, all the way over to what is a warm or a hot lead, which is that they're ready to start buying from you. And there's a couple different, pieces of tech that I think are really important to set up at the beginning, just so that you're prepared. I think you need a contract right out of the gates. I think that's kind of a non-negotiable. Rena may disagree with that, but I think a contract, you have to have a way for people to book with you, which is your calendar. You have to have a contract and a way for them to sign the contract. And then you have to have a way for them to make a payment. And I think outside of those 3 guys at the very beginning, everything else can come in after the fact, and you can kind of flourish out and make your automations bigger. But if you've only got those 3 guys at the very beginning, and then again, like Rena said, some way to reach out to people, some way to have the conversations, to get the conversations started, to get people ready for an email list, like Rena also mentioned, those are really good foundational blocks that you can build your business around. Do you need to have the most beautiful proposal at the beginning? Do you even need a proposal? No, but those are things that come down the road. Do you really need to have all the forms and all of the things set up so that everything's perfect, but you haven't had a client yet? Not really, because what's going to happen is a lot of those things are going to evolve and they're going to change as you start getting people through your process, and they're going to start going, this information is not necessary. And so, like I said, how Rena mentioned it, there is certain things that I think are important to have set up and ready to go. Are you going to set those things up at the beginning, probably when you have your first client? Yep. That's part of the process. You build on the fly, and that's okay. There's no better motivation than having somebody ready to go, and you need to figure out how you are going to get them paid. That's the best motivation to get the wheels rolling on your train, so to speak. But I think it's really important to not get overwhelmed. You don't need to know everything in your business. You don't need to know how to run a podcast, a month into your business. There's certain milestones, and that's something that's really tricky as well. Focus, like Rena said, about getting clients. And again, that may be a podcast, but try not to spread yourself also too thin at the beginning, where you're trying to figure out, well, you need an email newsletter, and you need to know Pinterest, and you need to have a Facebook group, and you need a podcast, and you need to have LinkedIn, and you need all these things. Like, that gets very overwhelming very, very quickly. And Rena broke it down and made it very simple. Get out there and talk to people. Find ways to talk to people. Maybe it's a networking group. Maybe it's, like her, I don't know how early you started your podcast, but maybe that, and focus specifically on that so that you can start to bring an audience that way in. You don't have to have 5 million different ways to reach people. In fact, 1 or 2 really concentrated ones will do a lot more growth for you in your business, probably than having a bunch of scattered, kind of sort of half done things. So I think, I think that, I don't know if that helps, Rena, but that's definitely my suggestion as well, is to find a really great way to reach out to people, find a way to get people in front of you, to have the conversations. It's great practice. It gets you ready to go for your business when the time comes, and start building pieces slowly, for sure.
Yes, and perhaps maybe add in, Doreen and Andrew have known me for a long time. Thank you for being our guests today. But many people forget that your business already starts when you are still doing your coaching program. I'm sure this is how many people begin. When you first conceive this idea, you probably sign up for some sort of a coaching program, which lasts probably for a couple of months. And many people forget that your ideal clients, or friends of your ideal clients, future clients, they're always sitting with you, rubbing shoulders with you. And there are plenty of opportunities for you to practice with people, just practice. And that way you start also collecting emails from your cohort. And doesn't matter what you coach on, I'm sure there is somebody who needs your service already. And so as you start inviting those, that's what I did. I basically set up my HubSpot, set up my Calendly, and then started sending out to my peers in the coaching program and inviting them into practice. And I practice with so many people, and that's how we created this coaching community and all. And so don't forget that this is where your coaching business starts. This is where you practice, you experiment, you build, you hear, you share your know-how. That's another thing, that I see with clients, is that when you have never run a client through a program, you have an idea more or less what is your program. You have an idea more or less what kind of problems you can solve for a client. And I hear that also all the time. People say them they want to charge 3,500 for the program, but they have never run anybody through it, and they just think that their first guinea pig is going to give them so much money. I was happy if they gave me 50 euros per session when I just started out. So long as it stayed, it already was a good ego boost. But more than anything is that offer free services. If you have so much free time on your hands, offer 5 free sessions, 10 free sessions, as many as you can. I know many coaching programs advocate against it, but if you have no clue whether your program is working, whether your ideas are working, anybody who volunteers to spend some time with you and work with you for a couple of weeks, for free, even if you have guided one person through your program, it will give you such a boost. It will give you such a confidence boost that this is really working. You can pivot, you can experiment, you get ideas, you can create programs based on that. And don't be sparing when it comes to your time. If that's the only thing you have, but you don't have the money to hire a coach to guide you through this and help you with all the setup, time is the only thing you have, then give it away for free so that you can get experience as a result. And you will get farther with it, with the strategy, than if you keep waiting for that paying client. You might be waiting for years.
And I totally agree. I think one of the things that happens when we first go into businesses, I think, especially I think in the coaching, I think in every industry, but probably more so in coaching than anything else, is you go in with a very specific idea of what it's going to look like. And I think until you actually get in there and trial run it and see, in a perfect world, it may work this way, but clients don't always work in a perfect world. And they've got, every client is unique. They bring a different perspective to how you're coaching them. Some clients are really eager, some are not. And so I love the idea of getting in there. One of the best pieces of advice I got right at the beginning of my business was to talk about it to everybody, talk about it at the hockey arena with your kids, talk about it at the doctor's office with your doctor, talk about it, just talk, because that in itself is the exercise of getting it and kind of finessing what you're saying and how you're doing it and what you're doing with it. Go to your local board of commerce meetings. I don't know if they have those everywhere, but I live in a place where I can just go to business meetings for like the Chamber of Commerce in my area. Go to online networking groups, hop into, I know you said you're not a huge fan of this, but go into Facebook groups and talk about what it is you're doing, if for no other reason other than to just kind of figure out the words you want to use for who you help. Try to get it so that you can be really concise and really clear with how you help people and what you do, and be completely okay with that changing. And be okay with that it may be a little bit different down the road, as you get things kind of tightened up, and as you work with more people, you may get into the coaching and realize that what you thought you loved about it, there was actually a little bit of a piece that's around it, and you actually like that part of the process more. That's okay. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to adapt to the thing that you love about being, that type of coach. Maybe you start to realize that you love working with one type of, maybe you like working with men. Maybe you prefer working with women. Maybe you prefer working, maybe you don't want that label, and that's okay too. Maybe you prefer working with parents. Maybe you don't. All of those things help as you talk to more people. And I love the idea of jumping in and having those free conversations. All of that is information, and the more information that you have, the better you can build everything in your business from that point forward, whether it's the automations, whether it's the actual coaching program itself. There's so many things that you can learn and adapt and grow and build as you get more experience. There's been many different iterations of my business, and they all happen from getting experience and spending time and talking and getting in front of different clients and realizing which ones are the right fit for me and which ones aren't. And then that in itself opens up so many windows. I know everybody gets really nervous when you start talking about niching down and getting really specific. And I really believe that the more experience you have, the more conversations you have, the more you really start to understand who you are, how your coaching program can help somebody, how designing the program that you walk somebody through, you learn that by navigating through it with other people. And I think I love the idea of not being afraid to do that in a free capacity, as long as you start to build in that it becomes a paid thing, and that it's not just a free thing all the time for everybody, but that, maybe you could say, I'd love to give you 5 free coaching sessions. Would you be able to maybe give me a testimonial at the end of it, so that you've got some social proof now on your website and in your social media? And you just kind of keep repeating that process, and all of a sudden, yeah, you maybe haven't gotten paid, but you've gotten a ton of experience. You've figured out your process. You're really kind of, like I said, finessing kind of what it is, how you do it, who you're doing it for. And that's kind of how I think it starts. And it's the easiest way of starting it. It's easier than trying to think you have to have everything built out and figured out, only to realize as you start doing it down the road, then you've got to change and adjust things. So it's really hard to learn to not get ahead of yourself, I think, when it comes to the process. And I think it's, making sure that you have the experience, I think, to do that. And I love Rena's suggestion of jumping in free. I know I've heard too that you shouldn't do that, but I think there's no better school than doing that and just jumping in and having really good conversations.
I mean, for some people it works, for some people it doesn't. Some people already have so much experience and they just do that coaching course because they just want to, I don't know, improve their coaching ability, but they already know how the game is played. But there are other people who are literally fresh off the boat. They're very, very new to coaching. They are not very experienced. And then they have a fuzzy view of how the coaching process is going to look like. And then, of course, they cannot sell it to anybody because they themselves don't know. Yes, you learn on the go, but I don't want to pay someone $3,500 so that they learn on me on the go. So I'm expecting somebody who has a bit more experience. And so we got to be a bit more realistic about how much we charge our first clients. And that's the interesting thing. Maybe we have some Canadians, Americans here. When I work with Europeans, they want to offer their coaching services very cheaply. Like, pay me 600 euros. Or pay me 50 euros an hour. That's okay. 600 euros for 3 months of work. I mean, that's fine. I have a hard time motivating them to charge 1,000 euros for the first package. When I have Americans, Canadians, they come with 3,500, and this is what I expect to charge. So I don't know if you agree or disagree with me. If this is your view as well, but I just found it so curious that Europeans, I have to really get them to charge more, and Americans, I have to bring them down to reality a bit. I don't want to discourage anybody. Yes, one day you're going to make your 3,500, but maybe not now.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think, again, there's 2 schools of thought. I think there's some clients out there and there's some coaches out there that see that their mentor is charging $10,000 a month, and so they're $10,000 for 6 months, and so then they assume that they're worth the same amount of money. And I think, down the road, for sure, 100%. But I think you're right. I think starting humble is not a bad thing. I love the idea of setting a price that's really reasonable at the beginning, especially if you're just learning. Like, give yourself some grace. You are just figuring this process out, and it's okay to have legacy clients where you've charged less at the beginning. There's nothing wrong with that. Takes a little bit of the pressure off. I think it makes it so that it's I think it's a smart decision. And I think one of the things that you can also do is, each new client you bring in, maybe it's at a different rate. And so it doesn't need to be publicized what you're charging for your coaching. Maybe it could just be that, for the first person, it's that 60 euros a session. Maybe the next guy, it's 85 euros a session. And then the next one after that, it's 90 or 95 euros. And it's building it up to the point where you're getting to that 3,500, but you've also got the experience, and you've got the process, and you've got kind of the clout, I think, to be able to do that. And I think it's a very North American thing to think that we are definitely worth a lot more, maybe out of the gates, than probably what we really should be. I actually have noticed that I've worked with a couple UK coaches as well, actually. And you're right. It's for a fitness session. I think I'm going to charge 30K or 30 euros to start, whereas somebody here would be like 125. That's a good place to start, right? And so I definitely do find that. But I think the thing to be mindful of is to make sure there's two sides of that coin. Sometimes people overcharge and sometimes people grossly undercharge. And so then I think that's where it gets tricky, and that's where a coach can come in and actually help you as a coach sometimes to say, okay, what do you feel about this? Or to take a look, if you've got 6 months of experience, then you shouldn't be charging that 30K anymore, or that 30 euros anymore. You should be bumping it up and being okay with people spending a little bit more money because your experience is different. But yeah, I definitely find that here. And I think especially in the States, not saying that Canada is not bad either, but I'm in Canada, but I think in the States, the coaching industry can sometimes be really glamorized and very, I don't know what the right way of saying it is, but sometimes it's romanticized a little bit. I'm just going to become a coach and I'm going to charge, $25,000 every 6 months. You have to earn that. You have to get to the point where you have the experience and the results, I think, to be able to charge that. And that's not to say that, somebody who's a brand new coach couldn't do that, but I think you have to build that up. I think you have to build that experience up. And again, like you mentioned, like if you've got somebody who's used to coaching in maybe a professional setting that's not their own, and they jump into a coaching experience, that's very different. They've got clinical experience. They've got, they've been around the block a few times. It's now just doing it in an online capacity for themselves versus working for, the company that they've worked for, or the however, whatever that looks like. But I think, again, like you mentioned earlier as well, Rena, that experience matters. And I think, I think that you do. I think you have to earn it. I think you have to start small and kind of keep going. I don't know.
Yes. And once you have that experience, and you've done the things a couple of times,
Yes.
you know what to automate. But
yeah,
everything is manual, except maybe your CRM and your Calendly. I know we are nearing the end of our session. So, Christy, why don't you tell us, how can people connect with you and keep in touch with you?
Yeah, so I would love for everybody to go and check out my website if you're interested. It's at lumerasolutions.com. I appreciate that. I think Rena maybe put that into the chat. I am online. My Facebook is Lumera Solutions, facebook.com/Lumera Solutions. And if you're interested in booking some time with me where we can maybe review your strategy or your onboarding experience and your client journey, there is a link there, and it's lumerasolutions.com, and it's /workflow strategy session. There's a couple different time increments that you can purchase, and then we can jump in and we can start working on building out an amazing client experience. Like I said, one that would make Disney proud. So that's my goal. That's what I would love to help you guys with. And I just wanted to say thank you, Rena, for having me today. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, and just before you leave, we have a question here, but I think Alex, it got answered. Alex here on Facebook is asking, she's transitioning from in-person coaching into virtual. It can be overwhelming as to which apps to put in place. Christy, with your admin experience, do you have a simple cheat sheet available to transition virtually with apps included?
I don't, but that's actually a great idea. That's one thing that can sometimes be a little bit of a big learning curve when you're in the online environment. You get very familiar with hearing, the Calendlys of the world and the different CRMs that are out there. I think it depends on what system you're using. Like, say as an example, if you're coming from maybe a coaching, if you've got the systems that you've been using online in your practice prior, and then you're going online, sometimes some of those can overlap and they can go across. If you want to reach out to me on Facebook or on any of the posts that Rena's got here, I can just jump on a quick chat with you and maybe go through a couple of things that may be a good suggestion for you to look into moving forward. I don't mind doing that. But yeah, I don't have a cheat sheet. That's a great idea, actually. Trying to figure out some of the different apps that can replace. I really like Calendly, like Rena mentioned, Calendly and or Acuity for online calendar bookings. Those are really great programs to kind of get that started. Yeah, that's not very helpful, but yeah, I definitely reach out to me on social and I will jump in and answer that for you. It's more of a case by case thing. If I'm being completely honest, it depends what you're used to using and what actions you need those apps to do. So it's kind of on a case-by-case basis. What you need and what you had and what you need it to do is kind of different for everybody. So yeah, reach out, please. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just checking if there are any more comments. So thank you so much for being with us, following the episode on Facebook as well. As always, we're going to put this up on YouTube. Christy, all the best. Everyone, enjoy your summer. And we're also taking our well-deserved break. We don't know yet when we're going to be back with the new episodes, hopefully soon. And so enjoy the sun rays and go do some summer stuff. We had a heat wave here in Europe. Now it's cooled down tremendously, which is great. And bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much, Christy, the guests.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody who's been with us. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
I'm gonna